in the front and ahead of the game in regards to how AI can really change their careers and really just put them in a position to win. So thank you so much for allowing me to ask the question. So I'm going to go on mute and
Sure.
thank you for allowing me to share.
Yeah, no problem at all. So, first of all, when you look at the 1 meal a day, uh, it's when you do something the first time, you're extremely committed to it. Everything you got, like all your heart, soul, and fiber is in there. Especially when you make the actual decision to do it, it's no problem. You're gonna run with it, and you'll have moments where you might be challenged, but it's nothing for a stepper, as they say. You just run right through it. You're gonna do what it do. Got people you're doing it with. Ain't no problem for you. Now, once you win at it and you lose that weight, and or whatever it is that you go through that process, the second time around, the third time around, it's a little bit harder because you know it's mentally it's harder. Let me say that. Because now it's going to take you being even more disciplined, more control, because uh, when you know for a fact you can do something, you also set yourself up to let yourself down you know because you know you can do it. You don't put as much pressure on yourself, and you allow more and more temptation to come in because you feel like, well, you know, I can still do it. I've done it before. Ain't no problem. I can do it again if I really wanted to, if I really needed to. And you start talking yourself out of it. And so that's the thing you got to watch when it comes to, this second, third, and fourth time fasting. Especially when we do the 72-hour fast. You're gonna have some people who we do 72-hour fast. They're gonna go 24 hours. Like, you know what? I'm good. I thought I wanted to do 72 hours. You know, I was gonna turn my numbers in because I don't want to look like a quitter and say I'm 2 days in. And after 3 days, I'm gonna say I finished and make up this weight loss number. And then I'm going back to the 1 meal a day, and but that's what people are going to do. But it's mental. So the second and third time around, that's just understand that you got to be more on purpose the second and third time around than you do on the first time around. Okay? You were in danger the first time around, okay, of failing the process. If you don't go all in and do it the way you're supposed to be doing it. The second time you're in danger of not doing it based on you know you being familiar with it already and having options. So huge. But as it comes to the AI era, if I was somebody who has a degree and who didn't really get a chance to work into my field when I graduated, I would definitely be attacking my field now. Because you now get a chance to go in and use AI in your field and get the AI experience because the AI experience is a little bit different now than your on the job experience. If you don't know AI, your company's going toward AI or your industry is going toward AI, and you have the AI experience, and the people who had those jobs forever don't, then they may end up working for you. They may end up working under your management, and under your supervision because you're going to be the one that's running the program for those companies out there. Yeah. So, for somebody who look in, you already did it. When it came to school, this is your opportunity to be an intern, AI intern, you in this industry, but a paid intern while you're working and getting it together and selling your program. This is the opportunity to make some money, earn some money while you're learning, how to put yourself ahead of the line. You know, put yourself in a position where you are employable, you know, from a company, or you put yourself in a position where you're contractable, you know, or put yourself in a position where you, you can actually launch your own company in that industry. Well, right now you definitely want to make sure that you use timing because timing is what's going to give you the unfair advantage. And so right now, there are millions of people out there who are in your industry. I'm just not talking about you in particular, the same people in general. There's people out there who are in your industry who are real comfortable and who have not pulled the trigger yet on AI because they hadn't been forced to. Uh, those people who are going to be coming on late, learning late, adapting late, rebounding late, and but people who get in there early AI position themselves, they'll be early and they'll be at the head of the line. So with the hand raised, say, "Hey, I'm next." Go ahead, pick me, put me in, coach. Let me help you out in this situation, and help all those employees you have out in the situation as well because they need what I have. They need to learn this, or leave me a couple that I can work with that I can teach, and I'll work with them and we'll run the whole entire deal. Once you cut once you cut those other jobs. But yeah, anybody who has a degree already, this is the time to work in it, but you know working it from a position of AI. Yeah, especially if it's going to be one way. It ain't going away. The job is, you know, the job is it's going to be taken over by AI. So somebody who's using it. That's what it is in the future, because it really is not AI replacing you. It's human beings and AI replacing you. That's what it is. AI is not going to do it alone. Human beings are required because human beings are the ones who make sure that AI is doing its job, right? And so uh, that's what I would say about that. All right, good way to start the day.
Much better.
Let's go. All right, who's next?
Good morning, Mr. Bean. John, JD is next.
JD, come
Latoya,
on with it.
I'm going to Missouri. I'm gonna get on Latoya, because she always jumping in front of me. I'm gonna get her. I'm gonna get her,
You
Mr.
heard
Bean.
what I said. She's back in the driver's
Yeah,
seat, right? She be jumping in there every day.
yeah, yeah, I'm gonna get her. But it's great that she did that. I want to just give a report on something that happened yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And it's all about sharing, if you ask me. I think we can get a lot further. I believe we can get a lot further if we give away what we have. If we share with everybody what we have and don't be a secret agent.
Right.
Yesterday, I went to uh, I went to lunch with a business owner. Had a lunch meeting with a business owner. Wanted to share some proposals with me on some things he want done, and he wants some investors. But so I just listened to him. We talked about it, and of course, I went around and talked to him. I gave him some information about filling out his audit. I wanted him to do his audit yesterday, so I sent him the information while we were sitting there at the table. And yes, I did eat me some etouffee. So the weight is on. So I'll get it off right now. But I did eat it. So I sat with the business owner and explained to him some things about, not explain. Yeah, I did explain about AI, because that's one of his concerns. Was he said he used AI, but he don't use AI. He does everything himself and not AI. He mentioned the word agent and things like that. But the reason, so I gave him that information. So today I should have that. That should be submitted today. If it wasn't submitted last night. So, but the waiter that was waiting with us, the first question when she came by the table, offered water. I said, hey, she said, "That's something to drink." No, I don't want that water. Thank you, keep it. But I asked her, was this her primary position, her primary occupation? She says yes, and I don't like it. She's graduated from Alabama A&M. She's graduated a while ago, I guess, with Alabama A&M with a mathematician's degree, a degree in mathematics. And I was like, whoa, that stunned me, because I can count, but I don't think I can count that good. She grew to mathematics, and what I asked her was, did she know anything about AI? And she had no idea. She had no idea. So me just sharing that opened the door for her to call me today, and I'm gonna talk with her about changing what she can do, because her primary position is at that restaurant, and I know that ain't gonna feed the bulldog for long. So I'm gonna try to bring her in and just cultivate her, talk to her about what she can do, just like you just mentioned with Latoya, because that degree's not doing her any good, not in that
Right.
restaurant. Not good. So sharing what you have all the time, no matter who you are, who you with, or whatever, can help somebody else. Also, want to make another mention. There's another gentleman that I have a nephew that's an IT pro for over 30 plus years. And I wasn't even thinking about it, right? But I
Hmm.
connected him yesterday with one of our guys here on so they can have a conversation about how he can help him out in California promote his business and get things done. So I want you to just talk about sharing and making sure we don't keep our mouth closed. 'Cause I was always told a closed mouth don't get fed. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. B.
Hmm. Yeah, you look at sharing, they say sharing is caring, right? So, yeah, if you, and by the way, I asked to my sister-in-law Trey, one of them breaks real quick pause. You know, she made gumbo and she made etouffee as well. She's a chef, owns her own restaurant, stuff like that. So, yeah, that was part of our menu for the weekend as well. So back to our regular schedule program. So, sharing, sharing is caring. And, do you really care about people the way you say you do if you don't open your mouth and tell them about what you have, right? And this is not gaslighting. This is not, me manipulating. You guys are saying that you need to be opening your mouth, telling everybody what you got. No, I mean, at the end of the day, people out there suffering in silence. Uh, People out there, struggling. You have no idea, how many people are out there facing foreclosure, repossession, bankruptcy, and they really look amazing and they're suffering, right? You don't have any idea. And people out there looking for help, people out there wanting help, and people out there doing anything and everything they can right now, and anything they can hear about, to get themselves out of the situation. Okay? And we want to sit back, pick and choose and play God, play the creator, the role of the creator, and say, you look like you would be good at this, or you look like you understand God, or you look like you can learn how to trade, or you look like, you know, you can afford this, whatever it is, at the end of the day, their situations didn't ask you what they look like, right? And so, when it comes to exposures, you know, remember, you got to think about it. If you're a true entrepreneur, you got to ask yourself, how many problems are you solving? Because the definition of the word entrepreneur is the person who solves a problem, right? The person who solves a problem for the masses becomes a millionaire. The person who solves their problem, he becomes a happy person, a satisfied person. And so there's a big line, you know, that when you look at you solving your own problems and then you solving somebody else's, and then you solving the masses, you know, uh, millionaires don't pick and choose who problems they solve. They solve everybody's problems who wants problem solved. They have no lid, no cap on how many bodies, you know, they get come in contact with every day. Their goal is to hit a number and get beyond that number. Okay. So you want to share with everybody, la di da everybody. You have no idea. Like people calling me and always reaching out to me, and I thank God that they do. I think about crazy that they do, okay, every day because it lets me know people checking out for me. It lets me know people respect me. It lets me know people feel like I'm worthy of an opportunity. But this is the thing: the people who reach out to me, they're trying to hit the lottery, right? If they reached out to everybody like they reached out to me, they'd be rich. They wouldn't even need me, but they're counting on me. If I come in, it's a wrap. You know, I got this person up under me. And I'm going to tell you this, it's not about me. I'm talking about me, metaphorically speaking, me being a person that's in the position. Any leader has ever been in direct sales marketing, made five-figure income, six-figure income, seven-figure income. I'm that person's lottery ticket. That's mainly why they're reaching out to me. But they reached out to everybody. They would find 10, 15, 20 of me directly and indirectly, directly or down in depth. So when you share, that's why I don't have a problem sharing. I share with everybody because I know that even though I don't know Laura, I shared it with somebody who introduced me to the Lord. I didn't know JD, but shared it with somebody who introduced me to JD. Didn't know Toya, but there's a lady named Carla who, Carly Gwen, who introduced me, to Latoya, right? And so the majority of the people who I do business with and have the most success with, and most leaders I do business with and have the most success with, aren't even the people who they personally enroll. It's the people who, they enroll down in depth. It's just like, when you look at the people who you communicate with, JD, a lot of them are, like they're brand new people, that's one thing. But if they're people who know you and that are familiar with you, they're not going to do a whole lot with you, right? They're not going to do a whole lot to move the needle because they're comfortable, right? But you bring somebody else to the table, and that individual don't know you or don't know the people who you're working with, and those that don't know you, what ends up happening, those individuals, they're looking 100% at the opportunity, the results, and everything that you have to offer, and they're going to do 100% of what you suggest and prescribe because they have goals to hit, they have things to do, and no reason to judge. Right? They don't know anything about your resume, you know, how many times you won, lost, whatever. They haven't been, even when you are a winner, and people have been around you for a certain amount of time to get comfortable, they get familiar, they get, it's just they lose their drive, you know, understand this is in your area. So they don't have to actually do a whole lot. It's the people who you continue to share with and telling you that those individuals, they appreciate the most. All the newer people, they appreciate the most. They do the most. They have the most impact, and they're going there and do the most damage. Those are the ones that keep you busy. Those are the ones that keep you up at night. Those are the ones that keep you creative. Those are the ones that keep you in the planes, right? Those are the ones that keep you on rooms, freeways, lifelines. And so I love everybody. I always have and always will. It's in the family. Yeah. But I love new people even more. Okay. Not personally, business wise. Because those are the ones who they don't all they want to do is win. They got started not because they don't know me, right? Uh, but they know what I can help them do. And they're gonna come in and put it to the test. And that's what I want, right? I want to be tested. So I want to share as many opportunities. I want to share the opportunity with as many people as possible. Find you, everybody who's listening, and let them decide, what they want to do. Let them decide if it's something that they want to participate in, or if it's something that they need, and go from there. But all this, I'm sharing it with one person a day or every 2 or 3 days. You know, you it's a hobby to you. Okay, you're basically losing on purpose. You're failing on purpose. If you're an entrepreneur, business person, leader, okay, your numbers you need to be hitting, 10, 15 people up at a minimum a day. You know, and that's just to have really good extra income. We're not even talking about life changing income. Yeah. I don't see what you have to do to get the life changing income, retirement income, to fire your boss income. Not have to worry about AI income. It might scare you. Right? But get out of foreclosure, repossession, bankruptcy income, that type of activity, that's the but do the 10 to 15 reach outs a day for starters about your trading systems, about your weight loss system, about your AI systems and stuff like that, and watch what happens. Watch what happens. But yeah, share. Yeah, I'm just telling you that share part so powerful, bro. But also that's just on the business side. But when you look at the sharing, also when you just from a giving perspective, it has nothing to do with business. What you'll find is that you're pouring seeds into people and planting seeds into people rather, and those individuals, what you do and then share with them and how you impact them. That puts them in a position where, they really start to have a respect for you and an appreciation for you. And you'd be amazed how many people connect you with and they turn you just based on the impact that you've had sharing different things with them in their lives. And so I always look to share. I'm telling you, it's not like they say I'll give the biggest giver. I'm gonna just tell you, the people who share the most, they normally have the best lives. Period. They normally have the best lives. People who are here expose the most, share the most. It's hard for you to out. It's hard for you to out build them. It's hard for you to out give them. It's hard for you to. It's just hard for you to keep up with them. It's just hard for you to compete with them. People who don't share, you can look at it as being selfish, right? And some of you are not selfish and as a human being in nature, but when it comes to business, when it comes to you actually helping somebody, you really are, right? And that's one of those things where you got to look at it from a different perspective and say, wow, I've been keeping somebody's kids from private school. I've been keeping somebody, I'm the reason why somebody really has to now move out of the house that they had because I never told them about it. I never told them about trading. I never told them about, whatever it is that you got your hands on. I'm the reason why, this divorce is about to happen. I'm the reason why, yeah, somebody's got to work through. They want to start summer instead of vacation and going on cruises. I'm the reason why when you start to put yourself in the driver's seat of something negative that you could have actually controlled or something you could have actually impacted. Watch how different you sleep. You toss and turn at that point, and you wake up on the mission. You wake up really wanting to be a more pivotal part of people's lives, even people that you don't know. So that's why you look at it. This call, the more and more brand new people come on here and talk about the weight they lost and they never worked, hadn't walked in years, and they walking, you know, their blood pressure is better, coming off this medication, coming off that medication, and we hadn't had a product. It's just the fact that we here, you know, have a relationship with whoever, whether it's a situation, whoever, it's because you guys are sharing every day. So, I appreciate that topic. It's a really good some topic to lean on. Yeah, but the masses don't share enough, and that's per person. A lot of us could share a whole lot more than what we share on a daily basis. We just don't do a lot of difference. So, it's a self-reflection, guys, and figure out what you can do to do more for other people. You put first, your family never be last. So, I'll go ahead and go off at that point. Appreciate you for that. So hopefully, that's a little light on it for you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, it did. Appreciate it.
All right.
Good morning.
Who's
This is
next?
Leslie. This is
Leslie, good
Leslie.
morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I want to say thank you first of all for all of you who showed me your gratitude and had me your thoughts and prayers during the loss of my mother. Also want to say for Ms. Laura Johnson, she was there in attendance to witness that celebration of life, and it was such an awesome experience. Even though yes, the grief was there, the loss, but still, I see it's a time also of joy, knowing that she lived a quality life. She loved everyone. She never met a stranger. As a matter of fact, I was younger. As I was with her, she would start a conversation with just anybody. And here I was in my little timid stage, as a young girl. And I said, boy, one day I want to be like my mom. She knew how to really talk to people. So I want to learn how to communicate effectively too. And not just communicate, so make an impact. And that was one of the words used. Sunday, during that service, one of the speakers said that she made an impact on people's lives. And yes, we did. And when I went to visit her about 3 weeks ago at the nursing home, she said, I was ready to leave. She said, tell all my children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, I love them. There's a lot of them. So I said to myself, how am I going to do that? So Sunday, at the celebration of her life, I was able to get up and speak, the first, to share her last request, to tell everybody that she loves them. And lo and behold, it was just such an amazing, again, service that you didn't feel like, so, because we celebrate life. But the thing about it, I want to say is that she would have been 86 years old. She was July 26th. But it doesn't matter. I said to myself, it doesn't matter the years, it's what you did, the time that you were here. I'm saying that to myself. So how can I be more impactful to others? So you just said it, Mr. B. I said, I approve that those messages you just spoke about, go out there and be a pivotal part in those people's lives. But what I will share that during the when the family got together, meet the funeral director, and we were talking about the cost of this, cost of casket, cost of that, and just talking about the overall expense for the funeral. So after the director got through speaking, I asked her a question, and she said, "Yeah, that's why talking about insurance. That's why I do. I've done a pre-lead, and I've heard it before, but it's just like what pre-lead, and this is where you can pay for your funeral prior to your death. So when after your demise, everything, all the finance aspects is taken care of. So from the casket to the vault to everything, it was already paid for in advance. Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, even though I heard before, I never looked into it. But now it's like, really, you need to go to this investment. Now it's just another investment. And like to be prepared, like to be going on a trip, to pay in advance for getting on that plane. If you don't pay, you get on that plane. So I'm saying, well, that's how I see that. So I want to share. Again, I'm just happy and grateful to be part of this community. The environment is just so enriching. And I missed out just joining last week. So pre-lease, you make monthly payments until it's paid in full. And I know you're an expert, Mr. Bean, when it comes to financing and teaching wealth. What is your intake about pre-lead, or heard more about it? I knew we talked about different types of insurance policy, IUL, whatever. So could you please elaborate a little more on pre-lead, or what you know about it? Anyone else?
Well, yeah, for sure. Now, when it comes to pre-lead, I don't know a whole lot about pre-lead, but I do know this. I personally, wife and I, we made sure that apply some things and arrangements have been made and stuff like that. It's just one of those things where you want to take that burden off, the people who you love. Yeah, again, talk about, you say the word selfish. Yeah, that's not a word I throw around. That word and get people in the feelings right away. How selfish are you when you don't make arrangements? You're not paying for your trip. Basically, it's like we get ready to go to Puerto Vallarta, and you waiting to pay for your trip, right? And that's not fair to me, for me to pay for your trip because it's your trip. Right? But when you put people who you love in that situation, again, that's pretty selfish, because now in that situation, this person already, they had challenges when you were here, and you're gonna compound their challenges when you leave, right? And so if you haven't taken care of that situation, a whole lot of other things you haven't taken care of as well that you leaving on your family, right? So, just as a matter of, just being prepared and doing the right thing, you know, start paying for it now before somebody has to pay for it later. That's one thing about it. You'll make an investment, like you said, to go and for this party, but like all these people, to your party, your birthday party, your 25th, your 30th, your 40th, your 50th, your 60th, your 75th, all these birthdays, everybody buy, you'll have a really good time, food, band, all the other stuff. You invest in all this stuff. When it comes time for you to move on, you have no will, right? You know, you haven't paid for, like I said, you're moving forward. So, you can't even go out first class unless somebody pays for it. You end up in a wooden box, and, and then all of a sudden, you really, it looks real bad, it feels real bad. And so let's go ahead and, put that money to the side. Go ahead, that money up, go ahead and take care of that and let your people who you love know, hey, look, what I'm doing. I would suggest you do the same thing, right? Because it's not one person, it's a lot. You'd be amazed at how many people don't do it. And you have a lot, be amazed at how many people don't do it because they feel like if they start doing it, that means that death is right around the corner. At the end of the day, death is right around the corner anyway, whether it's, around the corner 5 years from now, 50 years from now, it's coming. You can't cheat it. You can't beat it. It's gonna happen. One thing you can do though is you can take the time and then make those investments so your people don't have to pay the price. That's one thing I can't say about that, and we'll say about that. So take it serious. We had that. Yeah, you had people at GoFundMe's and and doing dinners at church and stuff like that to pay for stuff, man. That's not cool. Not cool at all. Yeah. So just invest in, even if there's no financial return, on it, because I don't know how freely set up and things like that. I do know this, that that investment that you or that what you put to the side to make sure you take care of when you have met your maker. The last thing that people who are grieving should have to worry about is adding your financial situation to theirs. So let's make sure that we don't just be more proactive with our own. Be more proactive in that conversation. A lot of people don't want to talk about it, but at the end of the day, it's something that needs to be talked about. So, but appreciate you sharing, Leslie. Glad to have you back communicating. And, we talked about, well, you was on here that day. We talked about using your voice, you know, your mom having her voice and getting her voice back and being able to communicate with you before she passed away. That right there, that's like, nothing but your creator could do something like that for you. You heard her voice before she passed on, and that was to your ears. And so glad you had that moment, glad you had the opportunity, and glad you can use your voice to carry her message and her last wishes forward. All right. So appreciate you for coming on.
Hey,
All right.
Mr. Dean. This is Laura Johnson. Oh,
Hey,
is that Mrs.
hey,
Dean?
look. No, that's you. Go ahead, Laura.
Go right ahead, Laura. Okay. Yeah, well, I'm glad that Leslie brought up this in life conversation and you added to it because it is so very important that we begin the conversation about what to do in the life. So many people do not want to discuss in the life arrangements, but I follow one of the people I follow on Instagram is John Hope Bryant. And John Hope Bryant, talks a lot about um, wealth building and creating wealth, which fits right into what we talk about here. And one of the things that he talks about is, everybody having a life insurance policy and then taking that life insurance policy and making your trust the beneficiary to life insurance policy so that now you can create generational wealth. And one thing about life insurance is the younger you get it, the cheaper it is. So, I encourage us to encourage all the young people in our lives to get these life insurance policies that, they could pay $20, $30 a month for, several thousands of dollars of life insurance and, create a trust, which is something that um, people are not familiar with. Oftentimes they only know about a will, but look into the difference between wills and trust because you need them both. And a trust really does help you to really dictate what you want done with the 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 assets that you've created over your lifetime. Because as you just said, Mr. Dean, one thing is for sure, we're certainly going to leave this place. And none of us came
Hmm.
here to stay. And John O'Brien always says, I don't know how long you're going to live, but I darn sure know you're going to leave. So it's really important that we begin the conversations, although it may be uncomfortable, begin the conversations because I worked in the emergency room. And we've lost people in emergency rooms. Confusion that happens to families when they lose a loved one, and the disunity that is created in families when there is no plan. People, begin to fight and argue, and it's a horrible thing to see, especially when they lose like a matriarch or a patriarch of the family. But in any case, it's an awful situation that can be prevented if people just have the conversation. So thank you for allowing me to share. Go back on mute
No,
now.
yes, man. And this is before I think that was Mr. Dean who jumped on. I hear your voice is pretty. You was there, so if I bring her on, uh, I do want to say this. When you look at this unity, like you talked about, that chaos that ensues in the hospital, you know, and in the living room, and who gonna pay for this? Well, who gonna pay for that? And it's like, well, I got this and I got that. It's like, yeah, it's all love until it ain't, right? And when it becomes okay, so let's see who we can get to pay for this, you know, which is crazy because it's one, it shouldn't even have to come to that. This is what you do. You know, you talk about, a lot of times a lot of people go to funerals. You know what? I ain't seen you since the last funeral, right? And it's like, it takes a funeral to get the family together. It also takes a funeral to separate a family. Right? I've looked literally know of different deaths in our family and different parts of my family that has created dissension in the family and ended, relationships in the family between siblings, not cousins,
Yes, sir.
right? Siblings who don't talk to each other, haven't talked to each other for 10, 15 years because of a death and what somebody left behind. Like you talk about the will, you know, like when you look at that will, the trust text what you leave behind, the will decide goes to, right? And it has the stipulations and things like that in the trust and instructions, that put you in a position where you know um, nobody can override the trust. You got somebody facilitating, you got somebody uh, dispersing the funds, you got somebody that's handling all the business of the trust. That way you don't have to worry about anything except for making sure everything is current and up to date. But you have a person right now. It don't matter what, like I said, what age you're in or at. You can open a trust, and once you open a trust, you get an insurance policy up there, and based on the stipulation, the guidelines of your particular insurance policy, it will allow you to now go in there and start borrowing against it. And you have it set up, in a way where you can actually do that, and that's important. You start creating wealth that way. And that's why the education is very, very important when it comes to that. So that's the area again, for me, I have to educate myself even more in because those are the things that, those are areas that I want to tap into and evolve into business wise at some point in time in my uh, business career. So, but no, I appreciate you, Laura, jumping in and
Uh,
making it
Mr.
because,
Bean, also
yeah,
property,
hmm
because I live in the rural South, and
uh,
there are people down here that have had property for generations, and the property is lost oftentimes because it isn't properly transferred. It
yeah,
becomes heirs property, and heirs
yeah,
property means that anybody that's an heir can, utilize the property. But then if nobody pays the tax because everybody's saying, well, it's not in my name, it's not in my name,
right,
then the
right.
property is lost. It's
hmm
lost. So thank you, sir.
No problem. And I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot of times I can tell you, depending on where you're at, where you live, it's stolen right out the gate. If the person died, you had another place basically, regardless of who the heirs are. And there's certain situations, certain cities, certain states where the heirs don't even get it, right? They basically can be stolen based on loopholes. Just telling you, you know, let's make sure we do the right thing. Let's make sure we take care of business, while we can take care of business. Yeah. So, Ms. Bing, I know you jump in there.
Hey there, thank you. Yeah, what Miss Laura said was definitely right on. You definitely want to, and you as well too. You want to have something stashed to the side, the insurance and things like that. However, what Miss Leslie was saying, and I appreciate you being able to jump on, be on and provide your strength to the call today because it's always challenging being able to go through a process, put on a smile because there's always a story behind that smile. So thank you for your strength on this call. Um, Pre-need, I used to be a bereavement counselor at a and pre-need is definitely necessary. There's pre-need funeral insurance. There's also pre-need um, funeral arrangements. And uh, I started doing this basically when my grandmother passed away at the age of 20, when I passed away, when she passed away at the age of 20. She passed away and I was at the age of 23. And dad did not speak English, and my siblings mentally was not able to handle the process. And so I went in with dad to the funeral home and made these arrangements. Um, to us, we didn't know nothing about the pre-need aspect of it. And what that did was open the doors to allow my parents to be able to purchase their plots prior to passing. And my mom's still with us, and dad has just recently passed away 2 years ago, but they pre-purchased it 20, 30, almost yeah, 20, about 30 years ago. And so real estate, and she brings Miss Laura brought some real estate, but which is real estate when it comes to funeral spaces as well too. A lot of times people don't want to talk about this, just like what Mr. Bean had said, is because it just hits too close to home, or it's like and on something that's inevitable that's going to happen, right? And so people don't realize that they need this or don't want to say that they need it. It's going to happen. It's inevitable, and you go through the hard steps now, and your family members, your loved ones, will not have to go through that process. And just like what I had mentioned with my siblings, they were having challenges making these arrangements for my grandparents back then. Guess what happened? People are human. It's still the same today. It's something that's emotional and challenging when you're sitting in that funeral home and having to choose the casket, having to choose the floral arrangements, and that's on top of the emotional things that are already going through, and then getting the finances together and things of that nature. The worst thing that you as a family member could go through is sitting there making arrangements for a loved one, and yet have to worry about finances, and yet have to worry about where this this what type of arrangements are going to be made, because you're looking at the casket, it's like, dang, what casket do I choose? I don't have the money for it, but I don't want to go the cheap route because water, bugs, and everything else might go in it because the seal is not tight enough, and they're very um, under the ground. You want them protected still, and it's just challenging when you have to make a decision based on finances and you want to do the best for your loved ones. And there's so many families during that time when I was working with those families. There were so many times families had to push off the funeral date because the money wasn't pulled together. And we're talking about weeks and maybe even months at a time, but that also costs as well. So go to the funeral home that you choose to select and ask them about pre-need arrangements. And it could be finances. I know during that time, um, there's no interest. So you're just paying monthly installments for some years up before the interest even applies. So at that time, people were $20, $30 a month just for pre-need, just for plots. And everything is different. Plots is the space that in the cemetery. My parents decided to get a mausoleum afterwards. So they purchased a mausoleum. I did not to be in the mausoleum and still be in the plot closer to my grandparents. So they're alive to be able to make that decision when with us, our loved ones are no longer with us, and then God forbid that they don't have a will, so they don't have nothing in writing to say this is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I desire when I pass away. And so now you're struggling with what would they have wanted? This is what I want, but what would they have wanted? So those are just some things and perspectives to look at. On top of the pre-need funeral insurance, there's also the final expense insurance as well, and you can look into that. The pre-need is basically for the arrangements, the plots, the caskets, everything that Leslie had mentioned. And then there's also opening and closing costs too. That's on top of it that not a lot of people know about. That too oftentimes can be financed. And that opening and closing is basically digging up the dirt, putting it back in. That's opening and closing. That's, right now it's ranging from $1,500 to $2,000. And that's money on top of everything else. So those are definitely things to look about. But the final expenses, the 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 funeral home handles the pre-needs. Now, if you purchase the final expense, that will go through your insurance. So there's actual insurance that handles those final expenses outside of the life insurance and everything else too. I often say that the person should have the pre-need, so that could go towards their funeral expenses, and anything else, the final expense and the insurance, goes to the loved ones that are left behind, so that way they could just have a lighter load to handle. Back to you, Mr. Bean.
Well, I appreciate you, coming in because, that's, so I knew you had that background. I just didn't, want to put you on the spot like that. But, I'm glad you came in and shared that because that's education in itself. I know some people learn some things, like even with the opening and closing, costs and things that are associated, with burying someone, a loved one that people aren't familiar with, And so the fact that you also said, hey, you got to think about, what that person wants, but more importantly, think about what you want while you're here. Again, it's all about you. It's not about anybody else. You make your own arrangements, right? Whether you want to or not. You know how you want to go out. What you want to look like. How you want to go out first class. You want to go out coach. You know, and you can finance it. You finance everything else, right? And so put everything else on a credit card. Again, that's one of those things that you really and truly want to make sure that you are on purpose with.
Mr.
That's
Bean, one more thing,
yeah,
sir. Um,
sure.
just like real estate, it goes up, right? So when you purchase plots and caskets and everything else right along with it, those prices go up. But when you secure that price, then you're paying that price and that price only when it's done. It's done. Now you may come across like things like styles of arrange like caskets and things like that because sometimes the manufacturer may not make it anymore. They'll substitute it for something that's comparable, but lock in the price because real estate does go up. Real estate in the property where dad had passed away at the time. It was like $2,500 a lot. Right now, it's over 10,000 a lot just for that plot alone. One plot, one piece of land where he was buried at is now over 10,000. So there's actually people out there that buys plots for investments as well. Back to you, sir.
About plus for
Good.
investment. Wow.
Hi.
All right.
Yeah. Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning. This is Carla. On that note, in addition to that, and depending upon, you also need to be familiar with the burial laws of people's various faiths, right? Because everyone, if, for example, if a person is of a different faith than you are, or even of the same faith that you are, one must become familiar with those burial laws because in some situations, for example, cremation may not be allowed in some faiths, okay? Embalming may not be allowed in some faiths. In some situations, people may need to be wrapped, and you need to be familiar with the burial laws of the various faiths that people practice in addition, and traditions as well. And also if they're parts of organizations and they that have specific rituals, you should also be familiar with that to make sure that those wishes can be carried out on behalf of the family member who passed. With that said, I will go back on mute. Thank you so much for allowing me to share.
Right. And when you go back though to what we talked about initially, though, that's good to know if you're working with that person, right? Yeah, that's something that you might have to know if that person is responsible enough to do it while they're here. But I'm sure that when we talk about, the initial part of the conversation, which I'm glad to see you brought that when up with somebody else. But it's still about that person. I want to make sure, like you said, you have to know about what that person. I'm talking at this moment right now. We're talking about you as that person talking to me. What do you want? You understand your personal rituals. You understand if you need to be wrapped. Right? You understand if you need to have a ceremony. You understand, right? We're talking about you right now. That's the most important message of the day because, again, if I'm doing it for you and you didn't have to, basically, you left it to me, right? Which is what that's what we're talking about right now at the moment. I want to make sure you guys don't lose the topic. The point, the most important point is preparation is the key, and prepare while you're here so nobody else has to, suffer while they're suffering. Okay, I want to make sure you guys get that part because again, what you require when you pass on is nobody else's responsibility. Okay, if somebody has to take care of you while you're gone, that means that you didn't take care of you while you were here. Okay, I want to make sure that you and your passing that become a burden on the family and their suffering and their grieving. Okay, so if you have people who are in that position, right, and you're helping them because you're a caretaker, yeah, make sure that you get those specifics so you understand exactly what they require because that's your position. You get paid to do that, or you're in line to do that based on responsibilities. Yeah, but the word is making sure, like Laura said, like I've been saying, let's have these conversations, like it's being said. Let's start having these conversations. And because the only reason they're really uncomfortable conversations, guys, is because nobody's really having them. The more and more you have them, the better you get at it. And the more and more people start embracing them, right? When you start having these conversations, you start being the person who opens that topic up for discussion, and you make it not cool to talk about it, but you make it comfortable, for people to talk about it by asking a couple questions. Hey, about, hey, have you just curious? I know a lot of people don't do it yet. They haven't done it, so don't do it for a lot of reasons. But have you thought about, or have you prepared, or have you set yourself up for, you know, moving forward after your demise? Have you, what did you do? Or, who did you hire? Or, what type of arrangements you have. You don't mind me asking? Just just curious, based on me wanting to set some stuff up for myself, or me wanting to advise some people, or me just want to know, because I know it's a conversation a lot of people don't talk about, but just open up the conversation, have some conversation with some people, and it's not as dark of a conversation as you think it is. Some people are happy to talk about it because they're proud of the fact that they took that burden off somebody's back. They're excited the fact that they are able to talk to somebody else about how good they feel about having that lotto locked up, and that's something else they don't have to worry about going forward. But have these conversations with people if you care about them. That's important. You can even share it with somebody, like we started off with JD's conversation. You can share it. Man, you know what, I was having this conversation with people today, and he was talking about making sure that they had a pre-need set up as they move forward. Curious. We got the same age, close to the same age. You good? You taking care of your stuff? I'm just curious. You taking care of your stuff already? You got, you already got everything set. You ready to rock and roll? Ask some questions. Bring it up. Have a conversation about it. You'd be amazed at what you hear from people. So, with that said, I'll go ahead and wrap up. But before I do wrap up, I definitely want to share some with you guys. Obviously, this walk and talk, world of health, and we talk about everything, and everything that we talk is geared to help people out. And right now, I'm looking at some things, but products on the market, that has some abilities. We've all heard about the GLP-1, Ozempic shot, stuff like that. Well, some friends who are using some products and things like that are natural, organic, that have the semblance of GLP-1 impact, and it helps curb cravings and stuff like that, and put you in a position where weight loss, weight management is a lot easier for you to do, and it's a lot better for your body, and helps kind of give you a lot of the impact that we get when we fast, right? And so I've been excited about that for a couple of days, looking at some things, consider some things that I'll be able to introduce to you guys. Not necessarily from a business perspective, just from a availability, to have it, to use it if you choose to, type of thing. But I always want to make sure that we're in a position to share and move it forward. But just want to kind of give you guys that, because I just believe that when you look at your health, you look at your weight, and the ability for us to, because I have the people who eat, they overeat, and then when they eat, they don't eat the right things. All right, it's a horrible diet type thing. So one of the things I'm going to be introducing to my family and with my friends, my circle, and make sure that they are here a lot longer than what their body currently will allow. I want to change some things, extend some lives for some folks. So I'll be in touch with you guys, kind of let you guys know what's going on, and excited about that. So be on the lookout, keep your ears open, and some announcements will be made. So with that, definitely want to say appreciate you guys for your contribution today, from Carla all the way down to Latoya kicking us off. Every day that you guys jump on and contribute, it means a lot to the people listening. It means a lot to me as well. So definitely look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, same time, tomorrow, same line, and more people with a bigger impact. So take care, guys. See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Y'all have an amazing day today.
Have a great day, everyone.
As
A
well.
wonderful winning Wednesday.
I'm sorry.
Yes.